I was born in an indifferent world. I wasn't cared at all. I was considered less than so many who just looked like me. My smile was replaced by the sobbing out of fear when they shouted on me in their heights longer than me. My dreams were cut down by the worries of deficiencies. Every time they give me money for the work I do, it feels like a burn on my palm that crosses the high-low beats of my heart. I cry, but no one sees my tears. I hate the cramps in my body from the work of the day before. They get sore by the next day, the next, and the next. But I don't get a summer vacation to get healed. Neither do I have a leave. My nerves are aging, but my heart is still a child. I can relive if I am given the chance. I can paint the utmost power of a glance. I love colors. I'm a kid, but I don't think that all kids are born to be kids in their childhood. आप लोगों ने नोटिस किया होगा कि पाकिस्तान में पॉवर्टी का एक ऐसा विशेष साइकिल है जो कि एक नेवर एंडिंग साइकिल है जो चलता जा रहा है। जो लोग गरीब हैं आगे उनके बच्चे भी गरीब हैं क्योंकि उनको ऐसे हालातों वाक़यात में परवरिश पाने का मौका नहीं मिलता कि जिससे वो अपनी काबिलियत को उस लेवल तक लेके जा सकें कि जिससे वो अपनी और अपनी फैमिलीज़ की ज़िंदगियों को बेहतर बना सकें। और याद रखिए कि यहाँ पे बात जो है वो मिडिल क्लास लोगों की नहीं हो रही, यहाँ पे बात उन लोगों की हो रही है जो कि बिलो द पॉवर्टी लाइन अपनी ज़िंदगियाँ गुजार रहे हैं। और वो लोग जिनको अपनी रोज़मर्रा के अखराजात को पूरा करने के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा जिसे कहते हैं खज्जल ख्वारी करनी पड़ती है और उसके बावजूद भी उनके पास श्योरिटी नहीं होती कि उन्हें अपने जो है वो नीड्स के मुताबिक उतने पैसे वो जोड़ पाएंगे कि वो अच्छे से खा पी सकें, जो दूसरी उनकी नीड्स है उसको पूरा कर सकें। तो ये जो एक साइकिल है वो फिर एक नस्ल से दूसरी नस्ल से तीसरी नस्ल तक चलता रहता है और यही वो एक पॉवर्टी का नेवर एंडिंग विशेष साइकिल है जिससे ये जुमला वजूद में आया होगा शायद कि जो हम अक्सर बात कहते हैं कि जो गरीब है वो गरीब से गरीब तरीन होता जा रहा है और जो अमीर है वो अमीर तरीन होता जा रहा है। So this is exactly where the child labor happens, but let's see in a bit detail that why and how child labor happens. So the people who are living below the poverty line are not educated, at least mostly are not, and that is the reason that they are not aware of the importance of education for their kids, for their children, and for making their future better. And as I just mentioned earlier that they are facing this for generation after generation, the same thing is happening. So they cannot think of education as a weapon to change their lives, and the fact that it's really hard for them to earn for their daily needs, to earn for their bread and butter, they cannot think of things like in a very broad spectrum. They cannot think of ways of getting out of that vicious cycle of poverty and to make their lives at least a little better. The second thing is atmosphere. The kind of atmosphere, the environment that we live in have a lot of impact on our lives, and the fact is the kind of atmosphere these people live their lives in doesn't make them as much productive as they can be, and the kind of atmosphere they have is not something that can make them recognize their inner strengths and use these strengths for the betterment of themselves and to become financially stable. अगर आपके घर में हाउस हेल्प्स आती हैं जो घर का काम करती हैं तो आप ये बात देखिएगा या उनसे पूछ कर देखिएगा अगर तो आपको रेडी नहीं पता कि वो किन तरह के इलाका जात में वो रहती हैं और उनके कितने बच्चे हैं, उनमें से कितने बच्चे जो हैं वो तालीम हासिल करने के लिए स्कूल जाते हैं और उनमें से कितने बच्चे हैं जो काम करते हैं उनके साथ या उनसे अलहदा, और उनके इलाका जात में जो है वो किस तरह का माहौल है, किस तरह के माहौल में वो रहते हैं, और वहाँ पे ओवरऑल जो है वो क्या रेशियो है बच्चों के स्कूल जाने की और उन बच्चों की जो कि स्कूल नहीं जाते। आप जब ये सब कुछ चीज़ें उनसे अगर आप पूछें या आप नोटिस करें तो आपको अंदाज़ा खुद ही हो जाएगा कि किस तरह का एटमॉस्फेयर जो है वो उन लोग को मिलता है। और इस तरह के एटमॉस्फेयर में इट इज़ वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट फॉर someone to be aware of importance of education for their lives, and even if they are really intelligent, it's in vain because there's nothing that can get their talents, their potential out of them and make their lives better. अब तीसरी बात आती है expenses की। Definitely education is going to take money, and it's very difficult for a family that is living below the poverty line to extract such expenses from their daily wages, and it's very difficult for them to not give up on education easily. But there are government schools also here in Pakistan, and you would notice that if kids are getting education, the kids that belong to low income families, they are mostly from government schools, and there are also policies in government schools to give free uniform and free books to the students. But sometimes due to the mismanagement or maybe due to the dishonesty at some steps during the procedure, such policies go just unimplemented, and when such expenses suddenly come to the parents, they get frustrated, and then they think that the only option they have is to just give up on the education of their kids and that they cannot afford it anymore. So the fourth thing is when they get hit by something unpleasant, anything that can make their survival even more difficult, that is already not so good. So the only option that they're left with is to let their children work so that they could earn a little money for their bread and butter. This is how child labor starts, and this is how children have to let go their schools and work for their families. Now let's see the exact definition of child labor.
The employment of children in an industry or business, especially when illegal or considered exploitative. Child labor in Pakistan is the employment of children for work in Pakistan, which causes them mental, physical, moral and social harm.
So now we are clear on the thing that child labor is a crime and it is illegal to employ children in workspaces or even in houses for domestic work. Almost 12.5 million children in Pakistan are facing child labor, and somewhere between 250 to 300 children in the whole world are facing child labor, and it makes 17% of the worldwide children population. So which are the industries that mostly contribute in this child labor thing that is illegal, but still it's everywhere, like in every single country? Agriculture is the largest employer of the children, and we even from the name agriculture can assume that how hard tasks are the children being given, and these are the kind of work that they should not be doing in these ages, and also it is not good for their physical development and obviously for the mental development. Brick industry, coal industry, and carpet industry make the top industries of Pakistan where most child labor happen and where most children are employed. And it is terrible to just look at these names because these are the high intensity work industries and children should not belong there. Other than that, children are put to work in football stitching factories and companies where football stitching is done to export football to the various Western countries, and here children work for 10 to 11 continuous hours for stitching football. And according to UNICEF Pakistan, children aged from 4 to 14 make 90% of carpet industry in Pakistan. This tells us that children are not only put to work, but they are put to hazardous work that they should not be doing, and they are put to work in industries that are not for the human beings of these ages, and this is just not right. और ये जो फैक्ट्री हैं ये कोई PM इमरान खान साहब नहीं चला रहे हैं और ना ही जो है वो कोई गवर्नमेंट का कोई बहुत बड़ा बंदा चला रहा है, ये मेरे जैसे आप जैसे आम लोग ही चला रहे हैं. बट स्टिल वी हैव टू से कि सब कुछ गवर्नमेंट ने ही करना है. गवर्नमेंट की अपनी जिम्मेदारियां हैं और आवाम की जो है वो अपनी जिम्मेदारी हैं. तो एटलीस्ट वी शुड रिफ्लेक्ट ऑन आवरसेल्व्स कि जो हमारी अपनी जिम्मेदारियां हैं और हम अपनी जिम्मेदारियों के साथ क्या कर रहे हैं. क्योंकि अगर हमें इस चीज़ का एहसास हो जाए कि when someone is employing a child for work, especially for such kind of work, then this is not legal, this is not right, this is not humane. So we should be really considerate about our acts. And also this is not for the fact that the families are poor and they are just sending their kids for work in such industries. It is said and it is proved that such industries intentionally take children for work. Why? Because it's easy to handle children, it's easy to manipulate them, it's easy to get work done from them because they are kids. They don't know a lot about the outside world, they don't know a lot about their rights even, and they can be easily scared. So this is the kind of strategy that is being used in such industries. They are intentionally employing children to save money and to save their efforts, and they are also brainwashing, manipulating their parents' mind because they have to say okay, we will let your children get the skills that can be really beneficial for their future and that can make them even talented, and that they can give them more than a school can give them. So these are the kind of selfish strategies that are happening in, if not all industries, then in a lot of industries that are employing the major ratio of children.
इससे पहले भी सदीक ये तकरीर कर चुका है. बहुत सारे मैन्युफैक्चरर की तरह वो भी लगातार बच्चों को अपनी वर्कशॉप पर भर्ती करता है. वो कहता है बच्चे निहायत बेहतरीन मुलाजिम बनते हैं. तरक्की के इस मरहले में बच्चे/लड़के अपनी महारत और बर्दाश्त की इंतहा पर होते हैं और हैरत अंगेज़ तौर पर फरमाबरदार भी होते हैं. और अगर मैं उनसे कहूँ तो वो 24 घंटे काम करने को भी तैयार हो जाएं. लेकिन जब उस पर दबाव पड़ा तो उसने एतराफ़ किया कि मैं सबसे पहले बच्चों को इसलिए मुलाजमत पर रखता हूँ क्योंकि वो बहुत सस्ते में काम करते हैं. जितने पैसे मैं एक दूसरे दर्जे के नौजवान कालीन बुनने वाले लड़के को दूंगा, उतने में आला दर्जे के कालीन बहुत कम वक्त में तैयार करने वाले 3 से 4 बच्चों को मुलाजमत पर रख सकता हूँ.
Although there are some organizations in Pakistan that are doing work against child labor and like UNICEF Pakistan, Save the Children, but still after doing a lot of research I couldn't find the exact punishment that is given to the people who are involved in such activities of employing children for work. So maybe because this has become one of those crimes that become too common to give punishment for. But still, if any one of you know about this anything, so please let me know also.
I don't know a lot about the politics, I don't know a lot about economy, I don't know a lot about how countries sustain, work and grow, but मेरे जैसे आम दिमाग में जो एक बात आती है वो ये कि वो अक्सर हम जुमला बोलते हैं कि यार एक इस चीज़ पर इन्वेस्ट करते हैं आपको पूरी ज़िंदगी का फ़ायदा होगा। तो मेरे जहन में ये बात आती है कि अगर उन लोगों पर इन्वेस्ट किया जाए, दोज हु आर लिविंग बिलो द पॉवर्टी लाइन, अगर एक बार किसी तरह उन पर एंड फॉर द फ्यूचर एंड एजुकेशन ऑफ देयर किड्स अगर उस चीज़ पर इन्वेस्ट कर दिया जाए तो ये दिस कैन बी वेरी big step for the economy of the country also, and obviously for such people. And I think we are missing on so many talents, on so many youngsters who can do a lot for themselves, for their families and also for the country. Massive influence in the bigger campaigns can only be run by the government, obviously, and maybe by the organizations or NGOs that are working against child labor for years. But still, as humans, as citizens of the country, we should be looking for the ways that how we can contribute to solving the problem or to making the solution. So the first thing that comes to my mind is that more and more companies and more businesses that are sustainable enough and those that can afford it should give social security benefits and employee benefits for their low wage workers, for workers who belong to the below the poverty line people, so that they could give their children education and make their children grow and have chances that they couldn't have in their lifetimes. Last but not the least, अगर फ़िलहाल हम अगर किसी भी चीज़ को करने की कैपेसिटी नहीं रखते तो वी शुड मेक श्योर कि अगर हमारे आसपास किसी घर में या किसी भी वर्क स्पेस में किसी ऐसे माहौल में बच्चों से काम करवाया जा रहा है कि जहाँ सिर्फ काम नहीं बल्कि उनको एक्सप्लॉइट भी किया जाता है, उनके साथ रूड बिहेवियर भी रखा जाता है। इवन वी नो कि बहुत सारे ऐसे हादसा भी होते हैं और वाक़यात पेश आते हैं कि जहाँ बुरी तरह से बच्चों पर जो है वो मारपीट होती है, तशद्दुद भी होता है अक्सर औक़ात। तो वी शुड मेक श्योर कि अगर ऐसा कुछ हमारे आसपास हो रहा है और हम उसे देख रहे हैं तो अगर कुछ नहीं तो उसके खिलाफ हम आवाज़ उठा सकें, उसको रोक सकें। अगर काम से नहीं बचा सकते तो एटलीस्ट हम उसको जो है वो उस क्रुएल्टी से तो बचा सकें, उस जुल्म से बचा सकें। सो दिस वुड बी अ कंट्रीब्यूशन एज वेल। अस्सलाम वालेकुम, दिस इज़ अना बाबर एंड यू आर वाचिंग मच टू गो। पूरी वीडियो में सड़िया चिकन बनाने के बाद बहुत ज़रूरी हो गया ताकि अब थोड़ा सा मुस्कुराया जाए, क्योंकि सड़िया चिकन बनाई नहीं थी, खुद ही बन गई थी। टॉपिक ऐसा था। एंड अगर आपको वीडियो अच्छी लगी हो तो इसको लाइक कर दीजिएगा और अपनी थॉट्स ज़रूर बताइएगा मुझे कि व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स ऑन चाइल्ड लेबर। And also the thing that I mentioned in my previous video, that I am trying to approach 100 small or medium businesses from all across Pakistan that are creative or innovative enough to inspire a common person like me, but they don't have the recognition that they deserve. Why do I want to approach them? So that I could make a video for them. अगर मेरी तरफ से थोड़ी सी recognition मिल गई तो I'll consider it my achievement. And for this I have given the link in the description below. If you are such kind of business or you know someone who has such kind of business, please share this form with them and you can join the group Miles to Go on Facebook, or you can DM me or you can ask me in the group if you have any question or anything if you want to ask. And Allah Hafiz.